Shaw here for one of the reports. I've got apologies from Councillor Moss. Is that it? Just the one? Okay, so declarations of interest. Does anybody have a declaration right now? But you can bring it up later if one arises. No? Okay. Minutes of the last meeting held on Thursday the 13th of March, pages 5 to 10. Does anybody have any issues to raise about the minutes or what's on the minutes? No? Do I have a proposer? Thanks, Russ. Thank you, Councillor Hayden. Is that okay for everybody to approve those? Yep. No dissenters. Number 3 is public questions. I don't have any public questions that have been received. So item 4 is the notice of the executive decisions. The latest notice of executive decisions is available via the link on the agenda. Does anybody have any questions or comments about these executive decisions? No? Okay, so we'll recommend then that the notice of executive decisions was noted. Okay. Item 5 is the Corporate Peer Challenge Feedback Report, pages 11 to 40. Councillor Wilson isn't here yet, so I'm just wondering whether we should do the health report and slip that in right now. Is that okay? Yeah? Michelle? Yeah, so if we're going to slip in the health report, sorry.
The health scrutiny.
Health scrutiny.
Which would be Councillor Brown.
Report back. Oh, Councillor Yeah, it's because you called Michelle. Are you sure you don't want to do it, Michelle? Oh, Councillor Brown, I'm really sorry. It's just the Michelle thing that threw me. Take it away, Michelle.
Thank you. I think Councillor Beach would do a better job anyway. So it's a really brief one, this one. So I covered for Councillor France at the Health and Adult Services Scrutiny Committee at LCC on the 25th of June when she was on her holidays. And this was the first committee following the election. So there were... Oh, sorry. Good point. This was the first committee following the election, so there were a number of new councillors. So the decision was taken to move that from a formal meeting to an informal meeting to allow some training and some background and context to be given to committee members, which I think is a sensible decision given the amount of new councillors on there. So the first session that took place, there was two presentations given, one from Dr. Sakthi Karunanithy, who's the Director of Public Health, and the Director of Communications from the ICB, who's called Neil, and I've forgotten his last name, so apologies to Neil. So the first session was very much about the context in Lancashire around health, and Dr. Sakthi very much focused on health inequalities, the particular issues that we've got in Lancashire, and the fact that you can go down the motorway and there are tens of years difference in healthy life expectancy for the population. So it talked about particular issues around, just out as an example, outside Preston, etc., where literally within miles it is over 10 years difference, and that very much is around the population deprivation in those areas and the impact of that. So there was a debate about the kind of services that needed to happen, the funding that we have to be able to support that population. So I think it was a really good context piece, especially for the new councillors who maybe aren't versed within health and what that actually means. So for instance, one of the statistics is around that the King's Fund had done is that not just within Lancashire itself, but if we take Lancashire as a part of the UK, that there is a 19-year difference between healthy life expectancy for women in the north as there is to the south of England. So basically that means when you're in the north and you're a female, you start to have to go and see your GP around the age of 50. But in the south, it's about 70. So if we think about that and the context and the financial challenges that we've got and these services, that, you know, the services that we've got under significant pressure, that's part of the reason that we have huge health inequalities. So it was a really interesting session, And he had sent through a lot of data on that. Unfortunately, I haven't received it yet, strangely, because it all went to Councillor Beach, apparently. So they're telling me, because they got us mixed up. So I haven't received that yet, but I'm going to try and review that, so I think it is really interesting. So the second session was from the ICB, and that very much focused on the challenges that the ICB are facing now. So that's the Integrated Care Board for Lancashire and South Cumbria. If you're not aware, there will be significant changes there now. So they're being asked to take out 47% of their cost base in this financial year. So the plans for that will come out within around September time. So there is a risk there in terms of commissioning intentions and what the ICB are doing in capacity to work, because they will be losing a significant amount of staff through restructure in this year. The system as a whole last year ended up with about £350 million of debt, of deficit position. This year is no different to that. So the ICB has a significant savings programme, but as do the local trusts. So for instance, Lancashire Teaching Hospitals has a £60 million saving programme this year, and on top of that is going to receive 30 million of non-recurrent money to get it through this position this year. That's 7% of its cost base, which is not insignificant, so it's huge. So all of the health services, so there was a focus on how do you provide the services that our population needs and take out this level of this level of funding all at the same, or lack of funding all at the same time. So that was useful context for the committee members. Now, there was a second session on the 7th of July. I don't have the update from that, but Councillor France did go to that one. So that was the main context of the session. Yeah.
Excellent. Does anybody have any questions for Michelle? Put you on the spot. No, brilliant. Excellent. Thank you for that. I think we'll probably have to jump over to the next one. So item 6, scrutiny reporting back, annual report, overview and scrutiny 24-25, pages 41 to 66. I'm presenting this report for the whole of the overview and scrutiny committee. Are there any questions or comments that you've got of the report and its contents? I'll just get it on screen. So it follows a similar path to previous years. Not so keen about what's on page 6, or 43 I mean, my photo. Is that okay with everybody? Yeah, Councillor. Yeah, the annual report.
Yeah, apologies. So just on looking through, and I know I've probably seen this before and not noticed it, it just reads a bit odd on page 47.
47, yeah.
Paragraph 3 about the PAYE settlement agreement. It's the response to that. It looks really, there's no context to it, so it looks a bit odd. Just reading it cold without knowing what it means.
Yeah, what were the reasons? Yes.
It just says, yes, that's correct. And then it talks about something, and I just didn't really understand it. But I know there is an email. I think there's a line. I think there's an initial bit missing from that statement.
Oh, okay. I'm sure you could have you found that? Number 3.
Maybe the question is missing part of the. It just.
No, number 3 above, where it just starts with yes. Yeah, that bit. I'm sure that can be.
Beg your pardon. I think you're right. Yes, I think the question was: is the PAYE settlement agreement paid to HMRC? Yes, and then what were the reasons? So I can amend that just to make that clear.
Probably just needs that clarity. And then we've got a couple of sections that are still in red. Are they still in draft? Then you've got page 50 and page 56 and 57.
Yeah. So the this report was previously considered in draft in March. So the substantive part of it was drafted at that stage, and the parts in red reflect the parts that have been added since that meeting.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
about the planning and property section. So they'll turn to black when it's published, presumably. Brill, excellent.
Thank you.
Do we have a proposer and a seconder for this report? Thank you, Councillor Beach. And a seconder? Yep, Councillor Ainsworth. Okay, so we approve that report for being published. So item 7 is the overview and scrutiny work programme, which is pages 67 to 70. Okay. Go. The current draft programme 25-26 is presented. The full programme will be considered and agreed at the next meeting following the discussion of the LGA corporate peer review report, which is tonight, and the findings of the review of overview and scrutiny task group. At the overview and scrutiny workshop held in June, members suggested houses of multiple occupancy as a possible topic for the scrutiny programme, which the committee may wish to consider. And does anybody have any comments about the work programme or the addition of the HMOs? Councillor Hayden?
I think the HMOs will be dealt with under the exercise, won't it, that's going on at the moment, where we're collecting information about HMOs across the borough in certain areas. We probably need to gather that in, I would imagine, before we
Yeah,
take
it might be worth looking at, once they've done that piece of work, what comes out of it, and maybe scrutinising how they've managed to improve the situation or improve some of the houses or the licensing situation. Yeah, definitely. If you could make a note of that maybe we'll have to pop that on, but it'd be a good while. I would have said more than 6 months, because they've got a lot of information to gather for the whole of Chorley, really, haven't they? Was there anything else that came out of their work programme that was missing or should have been in there? Or?
No, I think it's because we were waiting for the peer review challenge, wasn't
Yeah.
it? And then we were going to decide how we're going to...
All right, we might have to revisit this one then, won't we? After, is Councillor Wilson just running late? You don't know?
I would quite, if you'd like me to ring.
No, I'm sure he's on his way. I don't want to pester him. I don't want to make him rush. No, we'll return to that and approve it once we've had a couple of a conversation about what might come out of it then. I'm just trying to sort of push it along while he's not here. Councillor Beach.
Thank you, Chair. I think also we, at the workshop, decided that we would like spotlight reports on actions from previous plans, because we felt that as task groups we delivered the report and recommendations, but we were never given an update in regards to have those actions been carried out and do we need to do any further work. So I think that might be worthwhile tabling into the work plan, Chair.
Yeah, so spotlight reports on the actions which were presented through task group reports. Yeah. So we'll probably have to go through some of the reports and see what's implemented and what's not implemented, and then we can pop it on the work programme. Yeah. And then bring a couple forward that you want to, I mean, if you've got an idea of one that you want to bring forward, let us know. But if not, once it goes on the programme, I'm sure it'll be circulated and then we can have a look through it. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Oh, sorry, Councillor. Councillor Michelle, number 2.
Thank you. I just wondered if that was covered under agenda item 9, or is that something different? So we do have a supplementary, and that goes through the previous reports. I know Councillor Snape has mentioned before about the housing one.
I
empty
thought
properties.
9 was keeping a track on ourselves. Let me just revisit it. I've just had a look at it a minute ago. So
I think the empty properties is the only one that doesn't say when it's coming back, but the others do say, as Councillor Beach talks about, reports coming back to it through executive.
yeah.
So there's a few mentioned there, but the the completed action of reports being done is no, not complete. So I think that has come from that.
Yeah, so empty properties at the top of the list. I suppose, do you mean to bring the recommendations back on a spotlight report to say, why wasn't that recommendation done? Or why hasn't it been completed? Or why isn't it not possible to do that?
Yeah, that's correct, Chair.
Yeah, yeah. So, are we straight on what we need? Because
So yeah, just to clarify that it does link in to the item that's further down the agenda. So yes, so now we've got the monitoring update table. We can track the task groups more easily. So yeah, empty properties is the key one at the moment that the committee is waiting for, which is due to go to Executive Cabinet on the 16th of October. So the process will be, once it's been to Executive Cabinet, it'll then come back to committee for the first monitoring report on empty properties.
right,
So it's a similar process, if some members will remember on this committee, as it will on Select Move. If some members remember that one, there was a monitoring report and then a second monitoring report 6 months later. So it would follow that process.
Do we not get 3 monitoring reports? Is it not 3 monitoring reports after the response from the cabinet or cabinet member as to whether or not they've accepted or not accepted? Also, Peter's just texted me back and he said he didn't know he was expected. Oh.
So is he coming in? Is he not?
No.
Okay. We'll ask Darren in a minute whether he can handle the plan. So I'm just probably just
explore this spotlight and monitoring. Sorry, I keep forgetting to put my thing on. So the monitoring obviously will go on as it would, but the spotlight ones are bringing back maybe older ones, are they? Right. Okay. Councillor Molyneux, have you got a comment?
Yes, Chair, thanks. It's about the monitoring reports. There did used to be 3 monitoring reports, and that was up. That we had a schedule. We used to have a schedule, and we could see which report we were due to do 1, 2, 3, and that in the past. So Councillor Snape's right in that.
Brilliant.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks for the clarification. So I think, do we have a list of everything that we've had on task group going backwards, Claire, for I think things to be just looked at to make sure that they don't need bringing back in the spotlight section?
So we can look at older ones, so for example Select Move and earlier, and you can look at review the things that you've done in previous years and how many reports there've been up to now.
Yeah, so you've got that on a list somewhere, a simple list. Yeah, brilliant. Well, if you can circulate that.
I thought Darren had that list, because that's one of the thing I was thinking there was going to be a table with all the recommendations from previous reports and where they'd been closed out. I thought you had one for South Ribble. Am I mistaken from the meeting we had the other day? I thought we did have that.
Yes, that's something we're actually working on.
Right.
And also when you make recommendations as part of the normal business. So, for example, at the last meeting, you made some recommendations for following up. We'll also report back on those. So that is work in progress. And we will get back to that table as well around what state that Councillor Molyneux mentioned around what stage each of the formal reviews are at.
Great.
So we'll provide that to the next meeting.
Instead of waiting just for our next meeting.
Yeah.
That could be the way.
No problem at all.
Is the officer, I don't know your title, Darren, sorry.
Head of Democratic Services.
Oh, you were there, yeah. Sorry, Head of Democratic Services. My head's in the clouds tonight. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. This report is being presented tonight as a result of your work programming workshop, where you felt it would be a good idea to look at the peer review because it was around corporate improvement for the council as a whole. So very much fit into the role of scrutiny in helping the council to continuously improve and deliver for its residents. And then the second part was around the scrutiny aspect, and there is some really valuable feedback within the report around scrutiny and how you might operate in the future, and some helpful suggestions in there. So this is a report that was presented to the last executive cabinet meeting and really summarises what the peer review was around, and that's where colleagues from other authorities, from a leader, councillor perspective, down to an officer perspective, come and provide some feedback. They review documents, they speak to people, and a big thank you to those members in the room that did speak to the peer challenge team in May, because they found it a really useful experience, as outlined in the report. And their role within local government is around that self-improvement. So they look at some standard areas. We also gave them some areas of focus as well around external communications and other aspects there. So the report is as presented. You might just want to look at the recommendations that they're putting forward. So that was around shared services, financial management, company governance around the property company and the leisure company that Chorley Council has, some aspects around property and planning, strategic communications, priorities and how they're formulated and delivered, and also climate change. And then last but not least is overview and scrutiny. So they then make recommendations around improvement, around making sure you're supported in your important role as members, that you have the training, the skills, development, but also that support from the council to undertake your important role. So I'll happily answer any questions on the report as best I can, and then if you'd like to perhaps discuss the areas there around the scrutiny overview aspect. So that was around impact, providing external training, and not just you receive training, but the whole council, so they understand your important role and can help support you as well. And then how you move forward as a scrutiny committee. And it's really quite fortuitous that you've already started that self-evaluation process. So that scrutiny review that you're on with at the moment will be really valuable in formulating that. We've got a meeting in August, myself and Sarah Bullock, the Deputy Chief Exec, with the LGA, Local Government Association, to discuss what support they might be able to provide us with regards some of that scrutiny support. So that's really quite exciting. So I think it'll be a really good offer from them. So as I say, happy to take any questions on the report overall, but then also about how you as a committee might feed this into your scrutiny review.
Brilliant. Thanks, Darren. Councillor Beach.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Under recommendation, bear with me. Where was I thinking of? Recommendation 5, the strategic communications. It says that the plan should be adopted and implemented and its impact evaluated so that to fully embrace across the council. Do we know how that evaluation is going to take place and how often?
The strategy has been put together at the moment, and a part of it is about the evaluation. So it's looking at each of the communications campaigns and tools that the council puts together, whether it be around our events, such as the flower show at weekend and things like that, and then looking at what the impact has that been. So it could be around reach, it could be around feedback that we've got around that. So it'll be a continuous process to be able to find out how each individual communications campaign or the focus of that strategy will actually have seen what the impact is, and it will be measured in a number of ways, but it's part of a continuous process rather than a one-off.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Hayden.
Excuse me, a general one please, Darren. How is this report now looked at and managed, and who decides what is taken forward as a piece of work and who's going to do it? So how is that reached, please?
That's really a good question, and it's a really positive report, which is really good. And a lot of the messages are in there for our improvement. I think we'd you know, flagged up with them, and members in this room had as well. So the next stage is to use the recommendations to develop an improvement plan and action plan, and that's going to go to Cabinet in September, Executive Cabinet in September, and there'll be an opportunity for scrutiny to look at it at that stage, and that will outline exactly what we're going to do in response to those recommendations, and that will be regularly monitored. There's a follow-up visit in February time, I think, next year, where they'll just look at what we've done in that period. So there'll be that opportunity to hear from them to make sure we're on the right tracks. But as I say, we're meeting with the Local Government Association in August around the scrutiny aspects, and that will feed into the action plan, and that will be monitored as we do with all our action plans, and it will also feed into obviously your own review as a scrutiny committee and be monitored like the scrutiny reviews we've just been talking about.
Thank you.
So will all, through you, Chair, will all members get a chance to have a look at this report? So you said it's because we've obviously been privileged to look at it through the ONS committee, and then you go to the Cabinet to look at, will the members get a chance to have a look at it and provide input? So just to give you an example, so I've, on the comms side of things, I've been saying, I mentioned previously we should improve it, so I've put a recommendation to look at how we do our website, because compared to other councils I've just been looking at, I think we could be more impactful on the website, considering we get 1.3 million hits from it. So I just wonder whether going to all the various members to say, actually, you know, this might be an area we could improve. So is that going to be open up to all the members for comment?
So obviously the report will be presented to the Cabinet, and then if scrutiny did want to look at it after that, then I don't see there being a problem with that. I can discuss that with Councillor Wilson. If you're talking about inputting into it before it goes to Cabinet, it might be worth having a word with Councillor Wilson to see how that might work.
I'm thinking more the shaping after it's been agreed, just whether all councillors will get a chance to have some input back as members to areas where it could be improved. I mean, the report, you know, I thought the report was excellent. Like, you know, it's recognised clearly that Chorley's gone above and beyond in many areas, and you know, it was nice to see the saying recognise getting the benefit, you know, the basics right. So, but you know, there's a number of areas where we could improve. I was just trying to get everybody, not just, you know, not just yourselves on the delivery side of things, but also the members having a bit of input as well.
Yeah, I can certainly just start with Councillor Wilson, and I'm sure he'll be open to any suggestions. So I will raise it with Councillor Wilson after the meeting, but I'm sure we'll be able to get all the views of the council involved.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron.
I think that might be more getting councillors' input into the action plan. Do we get an opportunity to input into how to, in the action plan that is being put forward to coincide with the recommendations?
I think it's probably something I'd need to discuss with Councillor Wilson to see what the order is, because we don't want to delay it, because obviously we've got the report. What we're in, getting towards the end of July. It's due to go to Cabinet, you know, quite soon, really. So I'll discuss that with Councillor Wilson, if that's all right, and get back to you.
Okay.
That's okay.
Is there any more questions? Yeah, Councillor Snape.
I was just reading, I think it says page 34. It's probably an hard work question for Darren, probably more for Peter, who's here, but it says the peer team found that property and planning services appear under-resourced, to meet their... It says to meet their current challenges, and we ensured that investments were being made in this area. And then it goes on to say that it's important for the council to retain oversight of the improvements being targeted to ensure that they realise their intent and mitigate any risks. I just wondered if that might be something for, because it says that investment is going into that area, new property management systems, additional staffing capacity, etc. But if somebody from a group of people from outside of the organisation have come in and looked at the council at face value to see that there are capacity issues in property and planning, is that something that scrutiny should be looking at in terms of, because I mean, I know I'm not an expert on property, but if I think about all the stuff that the property team are dealing with, all the big projects, it's a lot.
It is, and they're all very individual. They're not like you learn from one and it's the same for the next. They're all so different. I'm sure it can be definitely something. I think maybe just look at how we frame the question, because sometimes just saying property and planning, it's massive. You know, I think maybe if we home in on what they've said, which is the under-resourcing bit and how the resourcing is going to change it, what they're actually going to do to resource it, that might be a more rounded question. So I think we could do that. Councillor Hayden?
Are you talking about staff and the roles that are needed within that organisation? Because that would, we said, didn't we, at the staff retention and recruitment workshops that we did, exercise, that there's still an issue to get the people with the skills that we need in certain places.
I was just going to say through the chair, but it's not doesn't look like it's feedback from the staff. It looks like that's what they've looked at from an external pair of eyes. Their view is that...
Is it relating to the staff?
I don't know, because they may have given more detailed feedback to Chris Sinnott and the directors, might they? They might have, because this is just general, isn't it? Yeah.
Councillor Green?
Just through that, through you, Chair, I seem to recall that Alistair Bradley mentioned that there's a process at the moment going on where they're trying to understand what property we're responsible for and own at the moment, and trying to I think there is something going on where they're trying to get a full understanding of what properties we've actually got. I think that probably leads to the fact that it said the record keeping hasn't been so good. So I think it sounds like there's, from my recollection, there is something going on in terms of that to try and improve the situation going forward. But it might be something we can raise with Alice to see where they are with that.
No, you're right, Councillor Green. He was talking about the asset lists at a meeting we were having only last week, and that the asset list had been reviewed, but there was still a lot of work to do. Whether that's tied in with what's been picked up from here, I don't know. But I suppose ultimately they're both the same thing, because it needs resourcing and it needs to be done, and it's not done already. And so I think when we frame the question as to what you want to bring up, we need to, whether we include that or whether we don't include it, whether it goes down the line of the resourcing more, or the software packages they talk about that possibly could help. We probably need, because if you go too wide, it'll just be massive and it might never get done, or it takes so long that things have changed and things have got done and already changed. So yeah, Councillor Beach.
Thank you, Chair. Just plain devil's advocate, it might be worth our while deferring this item until Councillor Wilson can actually come, because I think it's unfair to put poor Darren on the spot and ask him to explain the in-depth in it. I was one of the people that took part in the peer review, and it was excellent, and we were very well listened to. So I think rather than us trying to second guess what the peer group actually said, it might be worth we defer this to a future meeting, get Councillor Wilson present and the director with responsibility for planning and projects here, and then they can ask the questions, and then we can make a more informed decision about it, and then maybe look at what Councillor Snape has said, is putting this on as a task group for us to look at why it's under-resourced and what we can do and what recommendations we can come up with, Chair.
Yeah, Darren.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just perhaps mention that valuable feedback that Councillor Snape's quoted and mentioned there has actually been encapsulated in one of the recommendations. So recommendation 4 within the report mentions property and planning around oversight and resources. So that so when the improvement plan comes to Cabinet in September, it will include information on that. So that might help the committee decide, is that enough? Are you happy just to have an oversight as to how the Cabinet are delivering that, or would you like to have it as a separate piece of work for scrutiny moving forward? So that might be the next step, really, is just to see what that report says. It's been flagged as a recommendation, and then it gives you the opportunity to say that's reasonable to me, that you're comfortable that will be moving forward, or you might want to do some specific work as a committee.
Yeah, I think the improvement plan will be key as to what's going to be improved on it. What the plan of the specific items and where they're going to do it to improve on that recommendation, and I think it will help us a lot. And it's a shame in a way where we're between the report coming out and the improvement plan coming out, and we probably need both together at the same time. So, I mean, if there's nothing specific that jumps out to go on the list that we don't need to wait for the improvement plan for, I think just leaving it until the improvement plan's available, that's a good way to move forward, if that's okay with everybody else. But just going back to the corporate peer review, obviously it asks about questions, but then it has a recommendation on there that the committee notes the report and that the comments and key points of the discussion to be taken forward for consideration of the forthcoming work programme, which is exactly what we just said, that we would, but I think we need the improvement plan. So maybe if we just include that as soon as the improvement plan's available, we can then have a look into that and see where some items pop out that we could put on the scrutiny plan. Yeah, lovely. So the committee notes the report for the corporate peer challenge. Yeah. So we're going back to the work programme, but the work programme in a way, we just discussed that we need the improvement plan to be able to put anything onto the work programme. But members are asked to note the draft programme and agree the agenda items for the overview scrutiny performance panel on the 2nd of October 2025 as the panel meets before the next committee on the 23rd of October. How do we approve the items for the agenda? Oh, right. Oh, Councillor Molyneux, are you
Thank you.
waving?
I wanted to ask a question. Yeah, I'm waving. I wanted to ask a question. It's what's before about property services. It's about the properties that we have and what state they're in and how property services are managing some of those buildings. Because from my understanding, some things are taking a long time to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned it's because we're under-resourced. So is the question...
But not Chair, but not necessarily, but we need to find that out because Home Start Building is just one. And every meeting I have there on the board, it's the same questions to do with the electricity, to do with different things, but nothing seems to get done. And I'm wondering if it's the same in other places.
Okay. Will the improvement plan, Darren, pick out those elements of... Thank you. Pick out those elements that June was referring to there?
I've not seen the action plan, so I'm not quite sure, but resourcing was mentioned within the recommendations, so there will be some response to it. Whether it will go into the detail that Councillor Molyneux mentions, but it's certainly that you can perhaps delve into a bit more if it doesn't. But it's just waiting and seeing for the action plan.
Okay, so if we wait for the action plan, and then obviously if we make a note of what Councillor Molyneux said about the resourcing and the action or the lack of action, and see whether that improvement plan actually tackles that. Yeah, okay. So what we actually recommended to go on to the performance panel. Sorry, I'm not on the right page myself, so 67. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. So if you look on page 69, in bold, there's two items. One for the 2nd of October. One is the first quarter monitoring report, and the second one is the business plans update.
Okay, so we're proposing for those to go onto the performance panel agenda for the 2nd of October. Yeah. Okay. Is that all right with everybody? And that's because the performance panel comes before the next one of these meetings. Yeah, okay. Do you need a seconder and a proposer for that? Or even a proposer and a seconder? Yeah, Councillor Beach and Councillor Green. Right, we've jumped around this agenda, so I think we're on item 8, but shout up if we've missed something. Councillor 8, item 8. Reports from the task and finish groups. We've got the recruitment and staff retention task group first, which is Councillor Beach.
Thank you, Chair. For purposes of clarity, going forward, I'll be known as Shelley, and then we don't get the Michelles mixed up. So this is a verbal update from the Recruitment and Staff Retention Task Group. A report was considered at the Exec Cabinet on the 12th of June this year, and it detailed its formal response and progress made on the recommendations so far. At the meeting, the Exec Cabinet welcomed the improvements that had been achieved following the development of the new recruitment strategy, with numbers of applications received increasing from both internal and external candidates and time taken to fill the vacancies being reduced. It was noted that a new strategy had been identified as best practice, and I'm pleased to say that it won the Best Practice Imitation Award at the 2025 iNetwork Innovation Awards. That's not easy to say. In recognition of its positive impact. Good progress has been made to achieve or complete all of the task group's recommendations, though there are some ongoing challenges around retention of staff in specialist areas which remain, and I think it's around planning is one of them, Chair. It was also noted that the Council's efforts around the recruitment and retention received praise from the LGA peer review team that it had taken place recently. The Council's accreditation as a real living wage employer, subject to the completion of the reviews of outstanding contracts and processes, is expected in September this year. The first round report to this committee detailing further progress and or the completion of the recommendations is scheduled in as part of the 25-26 work programme, Chair.
Excellent, thank you. An award. That's absolutely brilliant, yeah. Praise. That's recognition of the highest, I think. That's excellent. Does anybody have any questions of Councillor Beach or her verbal report? No? So the other, the next one is the review of Overview and Scrutiny Task Group, and it's another verbal report update from the Chair, which is Councillor Ainsworth.
Thanks, Chair. Since the last committee update, the task group has now interviewed the Chief Exec in April 2025 and Leader of the Council in June 2025. The task group now intends to meet to review all of its findings so far, followed by an interview with Ed Hammond from the Centre of Governance and Scrutiny. The review is scheduled for completion in September 2025, which will feed into the committee's consideration of its 2025-26 work programme. Thank you.
Oh, right, that was quick. Finish. I'm still writing. December 25 it's due to finish, did you say? September. Excellent. Does anybody have any questions of Councillor Ainsworth? No, lovely. Verbal update from the, we've done the health and adult social care representative, so we can skip that one because we did that earlier. Item 9 is the action monitoring of previous scrutiny task groups, pages 3 and 4 of the supplementary. The action monitoring table has been circulated to members for information. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that? So that's your supplementary item, which is the red table. So there's just 3 items on that. So we've got empty properties, recruitment and staff retention, and suicide, bereavement and prevention. So we're going to have another table which also has things like monitoring reports and spotlight reports as well, which Darren is completing sometime, and we're going to get that circulated ASAP. Do you think that before our October meeting? Yeah, definitely. Okay. So anybody got any questions about this report that's been created to try to keep a track of what we're doing? No. Useful. As it expands, it will become more useful. So item 9 is any urgent business. I haven't got any urgent business, but thank you everybody for coming. And I hope Darren will pop those questions to Councillor Wilson and we'll get the improvement plan as soon as possible. Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you.